Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being interested in city, county, and TxDOT matters as they pertain to the MPO. I need the agenda. I need the heading if you want. Yeah, so I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the Policy Committee. Today's June 21st, 2021. And this is the MPO committee members. As I said, it's county, city, and TxDOT officials. And it's 1:33 p.m. So I ask for roll call, please.
Yes, Ms. Briones will be calling roll call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
afternoon.
Mayor Pete Sines,
Present.
Councilman Ruben Gutierrez,
Present.
Councilman Dr. Marta Martinez, Judge Tano Tijerina,
Present.
Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez, Commissioner John Galo, Councilmember Vanessa Perez,
And I see her.
Oh, you know what?
Yes.
She's present. So, hold on. Is this a virtual then too?
Yes, she's virtually joining
Interesting.
the meeting for
Okay,
this.
we didn't know we
She
could do
has.
this. Okay.
Yes, we actually have 5.
Mr. David Salazar,
Yeah, he
Mr.
notified us that he's running about 2, 3, 4 minutes late.
thank you, Mr. Humberto Tito Gonzalez.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Proceeding, citizens' comments. Do we have any? Are they present? Or are we handling also maybe by phone? I think it's all now.
Yeah, it's all
physical.
Yeah, all physical. We had witness cards in the front. We haven't received any
Okay.
of the comments. I know right now we're sharing this PowerPoint, but I'm not sure if you're able to, I know we have the packets on there too. I'm not sure if you're able to access
We
that.
don't have the packets.
We had
at
on the
least I
computer
don't.
screen. I think I'll need to stop sharing the screen so you can be able to view that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So,
Let's have someone do it.
yes, we don't have any public comments.
Can you put the stop sharing screen?
So moving on to the next agenda item, could you, yeah. So, the next items are items requiring action, and that's Roman numeral 4A, it's
I'm
approval of the
sorry.
minutes.
I'm sorry, Mayor, Chair. Can we go back? I think we have to kind of move a motion to excuse, maybe not excuse, but
Okay. Do you want to make that motion
Goodness,
to accept, or to approve absences?
Mayor, I'm here for the.
Okay, Dr. Marta Martinez is now here with us virtually. Yes, thank you, sir.
word escaped me. It's not excuse. Motion to excuse the people that are not here with us today.
There's a motion, a second by Dr. Marta Martinez, I believe. Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Is discussion? No, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries. None seen, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item, could I have the agenda, or unless you all, if I can get my packet, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is we have to pack it up on your computer, but once we share the presentation, it's not letting you,
What's
it has
happening?
you locked in the screen mode.
Okay, that's
Zoom
fine.
link.
That's fine. So, yeah, I've got it here now. So it's, the next item is that item Roman numeral 4A, approval of the minutes for the virtual meeting held on May 17th, 2021. What says the committee?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and seconded by Commissioner Ruben Gutierrez. A discussion, thank you. None heard, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, none seen, motion carries unanimously, thank you. The next item is B, under Roman numeral 4, and that's receive public testimony in approving resolution number MPO 2021-06, adopting the proposed amendments of the MPO bylaws. And that, number 1 there, Article 2, Section 2.3, membership terms of administration shall be amended to allow a permanent director for the MPO separate from the City of Laredo Planning Director, who is appointed by the city manager and confirmed by City Council. So, yeah, this agenda, I know we had some discussion last, excuse me, last go around. And I think this agenda item is very clear as it is now, under the current understanding or arrangement between the city and and TxDOT, I believe, the city manager appoints, or the person serving as our planning director would automatically be the MPO director as well. So by this agenda basically saying we need to separate that.
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Got a question and a comment on it?
No, second for discussion?
So we had a,
Discussion?
Okay, yes, discussion, go ahead. Yes,
Just the
seconded by
verbiage on
Council-
it, just the
by
verbiage
Commissioner
on that particular one
Pettis. Go ahead.
that says permanent director.
right, so we have some
Not for
staff
permanent,
comments as well.
that means,
Okay.
According to the communication.
And I think maybe he can.
I'm not sure,
address that.
I'm not sure we're saying that Mr.
It's just that language
Reeve is
right there.
permanent. I think they're just trying to change the policy, is that correct?
yeah, the
Yes,
policy's fine, but
That is correct.
allow a
So
permanent director,
just to give some background,
the verbiage on it.
I know as the MPO committee has discussed before about making this a more independent organization, one of those first steps was to amend the bylaws. We had to
Right.
open a comment period of 10 days. That was done at the last meeting in May. We're coming back to this meeting for that final consideration. Between that time, there's an issue that's been brought to our attention, and that's that there's an agreement in place that specifies that the fiscal agent is the one that has that sole authority to hire the director. So we went over this with the technical committee. The technical committee recommended the approval of the bylaws pending that the required changes are made to that agreement, which is between TxDOT, the fiscal agent, which is the city of Laredo, and LW Campbell, the MPO, just to ensure conformity, with the bylaws and that agreement. So that's an agreement. I added that agreement in your packet as well. So that's the recommendation from the technical committee, that it be approved pending that minor change that needs to be made.
Okay, so in essence, if I understand you correctly, the technical committee approved this agenda item, subject to continuing until such time as a planning director is approved. Is that, yeah, not the planning, but the MPO director?
So-
Is that the way I understand it?
No, so the agreement,
The reason why I say that is because if we approve this, then, yeah.
so we have a
Yeah,
tri-party
let me
agreement.
ask our city manager, because I know,
Yeah,
I'm in agreement of it, but it's just that word, permanent director.
That would change so the idea here is that you would have a permanent director for the planning department, and a separate permanent director for the MPO, so the bylaws would read as such. So there would be separate permanent directors, a permanent planning director and a permanent MPO director.
Okay.
This is what this bylaw change would create. But there's an agreement in place signed in 2018 that doesn't expire until 2024. And as per that agreement, the fiscal agent has that sole responsibility to hire the director. The reason I think that was probably put in place was, because the director has always been the planning
but
director.
and that's
Right, correct.
what's necessarily troubling, but confusing a little bit. So maybe, since you're, the city's a fiscal agent, what is our posture, Mr. City Manager? What is your thoughts on the matter?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Committee, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. Essentially, what's going on, I see it in two different pieces. One, where you took action as a policy committee to unlatch that MPO to planning director. We don't disagree with that, because we've been saying that an autonomous organization is a good thing. So that's not problematic for any of us. What's happening though right now is that, yeah, you are correct. There is an active agreement right now with TxDOT up to that date of 24, I think,
2024, I believe you said.
So the contract the active one does spell out that the city manager is the one who appoints the transportation MPO director at this time, because this document has not been amended. Now, if you were to ask me, Mayor, the next question, well, Mr. City Manager, if I give it back to you, according to the agreement, who would you recommend? I would recommend Juan Mendiva.
Okay, and it's one man, indeed, supposing that we go that route, which it may, would you be willing to accept it?
Oh, yes, I would be willing to accept that. Of course, there's still a lot of questions, right, that need clarifying.
Mayor, don't we have an action item on this, further down in the discussion? Should we just
Oh,
bring that up?
yeah, but this is all kind of connected, unless you want to bring that item up too, it's really up to you. But, yeah, I just want to make sure that if we approve this, then, and that, you know, we need to have someone on board, or else this committee doesn't function.
Yeah, yeah, Mayor, if I can, from text on our staff, and what they're saying is correct, and we have Ms. Sara Garza from our Transportation Planning and Programming that can probably shed a little more light in as well. I think there are about 2 or 3 items on this agenda that are all linked together, and I think what you're saying is, this item, really, I think we need to look at the other items and get them approved and ironed out before we can actually approve
Can we bring all
this
those
item
items
B.
up and we can all discuss?
I believe so, it would be items
One
B,
motion,
yeah.
Well, this problem is you have a motion and a second right now, so you would have to probably, we have to bring back our motion and second, and that way we could bring up all the ones that you want to bring up.
Okay, and that's,
Resend, I'll
yeah,
resend.
just so we can discuss the whole, because they're all kind of connected, and we need to know basically what the answer is to one to figure out the rest. Because we would hate, my concern is, we would hate to take action and then we end up with no director, or some way, somehow, which I think we will.
Yeah,
But of course, we need to know basically who's gonna be paying you.
Right, this
Well,
committee
if you don't-
appointed me the interim MPO director, and I've been cooperating, management has been cooperating with us, so they've been, you know,
Okay.
carrying out those duties.
No, and I think we're heading the right direction, but we need more information. Yes, Mr.
Yeah,
City
no,
Manager.
Mayor, and again, I don't think anybody's saying anything different. All we're saying is current contract requires it to be the city manager until this is changed, right? But again, if you were to say, well, if we follow the agreement, what would you say, city manager? I would point back to the same gentleman you all picked.
But-
So it ends up being the same thing, Mayor.
But who would pay that, Jim?
MPO would.
Okay.
The program,
The
excuse me,
MPO.
can I interrupt? I'm Sara Garza, I'm with TxDOT TPP. And I sent, I guess, the planning agreement should be in your packet. And pretty much, if you look at the planning agreement, it specifies everyone's responsibilities. So in looking at it, Mr. Eads is correct that in order to move on with any changes, you would have to meet with the parties that signed that agreement, which is the MPO, which is the city, which is the fiscal agent, the city, and TxDOT. Those 3 people signed on that agreement. So we're not saying you can't change it, but you can't move on and do other changes until you have amended that planning agreement. And when we say amended, we're not gonna discuss it right now, and you decide, you all have to kind of go and discuss it amongst yourselves to agree on something. So right now, we should kind of just wait off, because if we approve this, we're saying that also in this same item, you're also choosing the policy board to make decisions. So we're not doing that either. I know that once,
That's what I mean. Yeah.
And just for some clarification, if I may, so yes, the committee appointed me the interim MPO director. The city is still the fiscal agent at this time, right, according to the agreement, and that hasn't changed. So as Mr. Eads mentioned, if you select, or as with the agreement, if there's an MPO permanent director selected, that position would be paid with MPO funds, that's correct. But they would still be a city employee currently under this agreement that we have, and as long as the city continues being the fiscal agent, for the time being, that person would still be a city employee, paid with MPO funds.
And is that a condition for you to accept this position, that the city be a fiscal agent and receive the benefits under the city's retirement structure and all other benefits that you derive from the city?
When you ask if that's a condition, are you saying?
No, no, words, if the fiscal agent should change, I don't know if the county's willing to accept that or not, or whether we
Well,
also want to continue being the fiscal, when I say we, the city.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of conversations that need to be had,
Well, that's
being
what I
able to
mean, yeah.
decide like, okay, what's gonna happen, or if the fiscal agent is gonna change, and what's gonna happen, then we're gonna have to talk about that, like what's gonna happen with staff, who's gonna move, what's gonna be offered to the director. But at the time being, I think because of what the agreement that's in place, and, I think you all have an option to leave an interim director as is right now, and then, move forward. We'll be carrying out the duties that we have to do as an MPO. And then we can have some conversations. There's an item that's I'm gonna discuss later on about a process review that can help throughout this whole process to help hear some of these things and to see what's the best direction of the MPO going forward.
Is that suitable, Judge?
If
or how do you-
I may, well, I'd like to go back to the question in hand, and it's Article 2, Section 2.3, Membership Terms and Administration. I know Councilman basically just had one question on a word, and that was permanent. And I think we've gone from permanent, all of a sudden now there's so many other avenues that we've kind of jumped that I'm actually a little bit more confused. But I think if we're going, and I have no problems with Mr. Juan Mendiva, I will say that, but I think for transparency's sake, there needs to be a certain item just written for that particular appointment. That's my guess. Okay, that's my suggestion. But I think right now, if we could just go back to the permanent, and I have to ask this question, and I didn't want to follow this rabbit trail, but I will. If the city manager appoints, then who fires?
I do. In and out through my office.
You do have the agreement in your packet. You see under that agreement, Article 5, subsection F.
So now it's starting to get where this body, which is an autonomous board, now is becoming more of a city kind of government. And I kind of have a little bit of a problem with that. I think this is important for this board to hire and fire. And I know that it says of 2024. The question that I have though, Mr. Eads, is if it's not till 2024, if we're able to change some things, why can't we change all things?
I'm sorry, Judge.
For this body to hire and fire an administrator or director.
Yeah, no, that's the suggestion.
I'm saying with TxDOT, because if the TxDOT has a contract that says 2024, am I correct by saying that?
Right, and you can change, you can amend it, but like I said,
Oh, well then,
before you go and do that, you need to meet with the parties that
totally
signed
agree.
to come to an agreement, but not discuss it all here in front of everybody and
Thank you.
decide,
that's exactly what I was trying to
So
say.
I'm saying that's why I'm saying we shouldn't vote on that item, we should just.
I agree with that. And that's kind of where I was going with that, so thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to table?
Mayor,
Yes, who is this, Dr. Martinez?
yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry about my voice, guys. So I'm just trying to understand this concept. So this item in particular, we shouldn't be discussing or we shouldn't be voting on until there's an agreement, the agreement is rearranged and signed by the active parties, which would be the city of Laredo and TxDOT, to go and change it. Am I understanding that correctly? I'm sorry.
No, I think you're right, Doctor.
So I think the best thing to do is I'll resend my motion. Maybe you could ask your Councilman Bettis to resend her second, and then I will move a motion to go ahead and table this item.
Okay, so, yeah, what you, who seconded? I think was Ms. Perez?
I'll say,
No, yeah, we're rescinding the original motion and second as rescinded, okay. Okay, so now we're available. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor.
Further discussion, Mr. Eads.
So just again, real quick, being that we have this active
there's a motion to table, Mayor, so there's no discussion on that.
No, yeah, we haven't taken that motion to table yet. Yeah, Mr. Eads wants to say something before I take that motion to table.
Ed said it, so
Yeah, I didn't hear a second.
I seconded it.
Okay, Mr. Eads wanted okay, that's fine if you're insisting, but there's a motion to table and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries. I just wanted to give deference to Mr. Eads.
No, that's
Yeah,
fine.
Okay. No,
We'll come back to
you
this.
can come back.
Mayor, we can bring up the items since Mr. Eads is here and he's busy. I think he wants to speak on selecting the director. If that's okay, would you guys be okay with bringing up those items, please?
Okay, what other item is that?
That's item I, or I.
Discussion with possible action. Okay, there's a motion to bring up that matter by Dr. Martha Martinez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Judge Tijerina. Discussion. None heard. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. Motion carries. Yes, go ahead. Discussion with possible action on the appointment of a permanent NPO director and any other matters incident thereto. Okay, that's again before us. Mr. Eads, maybe this is your opportunity to chime in.
Right, so the only thing I'm falling back on, I don't mean to sound repetitive or But, yeah, I think it ends up being the same, right? We get to the same point, but being that right now technically we have an interim director, which is great. How he got to the position should have been, a vehicle should have been used, a different one, and that's all I was suggesting, is let's go and follow this. Because that's what we're working with today. So we're gonna take back and modify this, right? So where the MPO can go ahead and hire and fire. But until then, contractually, it does come through my office until this changes.
But do we have to rescind the previous actions, Mr. City Manager? In other words, rescind the previous action of appointing him as director? Is that what TxDOT is requesting so that you can direct him through the contract? And I'm just trying to understand this.
I would think that it's voidable, and just so that the MPO doesn't get in a position where they're doing something against an active agreement. And that's all I was suggesting. If we were to follow this like we should, then right now, the one that should be appointing is me. So that didn't happen at that other meeting. And those were some of the questions I was trying to answer or ask, because I wasn't sure what was going on. Because these sort of things now come out. And I didn't go searching for this, to be honest. Miss Sarah is the one who pointed it out to all of us, saying, wait a minute, you guys, the MPO policy kind of shouldn't have taken that action. They could have turned around to the city manager and said, hey, Mr. City Manager, what are you thinking? Ends up being the same math with Esteban.
Okay, but keep in mind, do you have the authority? Because I know under the city manager can appoint, whoever he appoints as planning director will automatically be the MPO director. So you're saying that you have the authority to say, I'll keep my planning director and I'll appoint someone different to the MPO?
So,
and I'm okay with it too, to
Right,
be honest.
right.
I'm not making an issue of it.
so
I just
my
wanna make
understanding,
sure. Go ahead.
my understanding was that you all have decided to unhook those things. So now, yes, Mayor, right now, currently speaking, then that would mean that I would select both our planning director for the city that I always had the ability to do. But on this MPO piece, I would have to also give you that appointment, the name for the appointment as well.
May I, I'm sorry?
Yes, sir, go ahead, Jeff.
And I'm not really familiar with city charter, but I kind of have a little bit of an idea. Even with that, the planning director still, you could appoint, but the council still has to affirm, is that correct?
That is correct.
So that would be the same thing in this particular point. You could make sure, you could appoint Mr. Juan, but we would still have to affirm.
In the current condition that we have right now, current agreement doesn't allow for that.
So,
It's
so
hard.
city council, so in the charter does not work like that?
It says,
Isn't it the chief, the the chief of firefighters, chief of police, the planning director, there's 5 of them, aren't
Yeah.
there? And they have, and city council has to affirm.
correct,
So then what would be different than this time?
because you're affirming an MPO director, not a planning director.
So that would be an added on to the, I guess I'm just kind of, I think everything's a little loosely here, and I think what we need to do is really adjust the policies first before anything else.
Well, and Mayor, and again, I don't want to suggest anything different other than following what's in front of us and the letter of the law, which it was pointed out to me to say, you're actually the one that's supposed to be doing that.
And according to the agreement.
If I can add something,
According
Mayor,
to the
as well.
agreement, it doesn't state that the planning director,
I'm sorry?
according to this agreement, it doesn't state that the planning director has to be the MPO director.
Okay.
That was in our bylaws. And right now, since that item was tabled, well, the bylaws still stand as is. But in the agreement, all it specifies for the fiscal agent, that's a particular item. The fiscal agent exercises sole responsibility to hire, evaluate, and terminate the MPO Transportation Planning
Well, that's
Director.
clear.
That's the one.
But there's an item under the MPO Policy Committee that also mentions that the Policy Committee exercises sole responsibility to supervise and direct the MPO Transportation
Correct.
Planning Director. So that's where the city manager would be able to hire an MPO director, and the committee will
So under
supervise.
that
the MPO
authority,
director.
you would appoint
Yes, Mayor,
as interim?
Yes, interim at this point. I assume the MPO would solicit for applicants, right? So yeah, Mr. Mendigo's entirely right. Right now, city manager hires, evaluates, terminates MPO Transportation Planning Director. But then you look above that where the duties of the MPO is, and one of the duties is It is exercise sole responsibility to supervise and direct the MPO Transportation Planning Director. So that's where we're off, right? So the city manager right now at this point, in this contract appoints, the policy committee oversees the appointment. All I'm saying is I think you all want to get to a point where that's one and the same. So you take this from my authorities and you put them into the MPOs. So now you guys will be hiring, firing, appointing, and ultimately also overseeing whoever that is.
And I guess what I'm trying to say, if you don't mind, Mayor, I guess in all reality is, this has nothing to do against you appointing or firing or whatever the case.
Sure.
My thing is, I don't have a crystal ball, and Robert Eads is a good guy. Tomorrow there might be another situation where there's another, city manager comes in, and let's just say that he just does things that we don't all agree with. And so what I'm just trying to do, every time I look at situations like this, I try to leave them better than they were today. That way it's cleaner, better for tomorrow when we're off these chairs. Now, not everybody's trying to decipher and trying to encrypt on what's going on. It's just an easy, smooth transition. And to me, the more that this body is able to hold itself forward and go ahead and hire and fire, the better it's going to be, because I just think there's a lot of moving parts, and it's, do I like it that the city manager does it? No, but it's not really, has nothing to do against you. It has to do with the fact that we're just trying to make it better for tomorrow.
No, Judge, if I may, my understanding of what his statement is that for the time being, once the policies are changed, and I don't think I've heard anyone go against that unless there's someone here at the meeting, but I think ideally the goal is to change the policies where basically we're autonomous, other than if the city remains as the fiscal agent, then the city's responsibility would be just to pay, not to hire, not to fire, not to supervise. And this body would supervise, hire and fire, and whatever. And that's I think the goal where we're heading. Yes.
Mayor, quickly.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I completely understand what everybody's saying. My question is just to the HR aspect of all this. When you're a city employee, or whether you're a county employee, there's certain protections that are afforded to you as an employee of that fiscal entity or agency. And so it's tough for us as a policy committee to understand how, give me one second. Well, sorry guys, I'm coughing. For us to be able to do that from a human resources perspective, how would we handle that?
Yeah, I think my understanding is that we would have to have an MOU, some memorandum of understanding between the parties, basically saying, Mr. Director, we set up the rules, we separate, the city would separate themselves, other than NPO, based on the monies that you're getting, we'll pay the MPO director so much, and based on that only, the city would have no direct input as to whether he gets a raise or this or that or whatever. It would be up to the MPO, with the understanding and condition on the fact that the monies are coming, some way. The city's going to get reimbursed some way, because it's going to be totally autonomous.
And that would be stipulated in the agreement, so those are the conversations that we could have, and we can say, the fiscal agent will still provide, HR, IT services, things like that, and then what is the policy committee's role, we would, stipulate that in.
But if we don't get the money, city doesn't get the money, we don't pay,
So Mayor, that goes back to the point, I think, where the separation comes. So I understood that y'all wanted to be, the MPO wanted to be a standalone. But if we're still giving benefits to your MPO director, would we not be here 6 months from now saying, that doesn't work? Because truly, if it's independent, it's independent. Like, I think that needs to be spelled out, like an RMA type independence, right? But we can't have it both ways, right? We can't have, well, I oversee half of you. Do I oversee the other half? And then how do I treat that, right?
How do other MPOs do it?
They're standalone.
Completely? No
It
insurance,
varies.
no nothing?
An example that I've been looking at is the city of El Paso. So the El Paso MPO director is appointed by the policy committee, but on their bylaws and their agreement, it states that the staff are city of El Paso employees. But it's the duties or the roles and responsibilities are very well detailed in those bylaws and in that agreement as well. It just varies depending on the MPO. But if you look through different MPOs in Texas, they all are going to have this agreement on their website. And there's small variations. This is an agreement that actually comes from TxDOT's TPP office. So they provide this for MPOs, and then there's just minor changes that are made. So it depends on the MPO you're looking at. It's difficult for us as an MPO to become completely standalone because the money that we get is on a reimbursement basis. So we need a fiscal agent to be able to function.
I agree
One of the
with
parties
you.
has to be a fiscal agent, can't be completely independent. Yeah.
Correct. So who's a physical agent in El Paso?
The city.
Fiscal agent,
Is
City of El
city.
Paso, and that's why
City.
the bylaws are very well detailed saying
It falls
what
under
are the
the under the
responsibilities.
city employment.
But that was
Correct,
exactly my point.
Right.
It's still an autonomous board.
Yes,
The MPO still hires and fires, but the fiscal agent is still the city.
correct,
And the insurance comes from the city.
right.
And that's something that we could still do it that way. And I know you just said right now, how does that work? And how else it can be done?
Yeah, Judge, and
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, Mr. Salazar, and then Ms. Perez.
there you go.
there you go. So Mayor, if I may, the MPOs that come to mind is the city of Abilene, and I believe Midland, Odessa, where they do have an independent MPO director. They are city employees. They do not answer to the city manager or the city manager. They do answer to a body. The other one that comes to mind is San Angelo District, it's right up the street, same thing, independent MPO director. They do have different policies, but there is an agenda item F that we as TxDOT feel could help us walk through the whole process, and we're actually requesting that we bring an independent body, TTI, Transportation Institute, to come in and help us through this transition and answer the questions that we have now. So it is one of the items on the agenda today that we're hoping that we can do it. It's a completely independent body of TxDOT, county and the city, and they'll be happy to work with us and walk us through the questions that we have right now, so we do get it right. That is one item that I do want to discuss a little later.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Eads, and then maybe I'll make a,
Yeah,
I know Ms. Perez also, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ms. Perez? Okay.
Councilmember Perez.
Oh, yes, Mayor, thank you. I was just gonna say that, when we hashed this all out last time, it was brought up that, the funding source could come from different, it could be the county, it could be the city, it could be TxDOT, I guess it could be different funding sources. So I guess what Mr. Eads is saying is that it's like if the city's gonna fund it, then that creates conflict for the city. So if the MPO wants to be separate, then we should be separate. That's my view on this, is what other cities are doing might be different from what our intention is, but I think last time we kind of all came to the consensus that the MPO would be its own separate entity, and so that's the intention, and we kind of have to, I guess, move in that direction so that there's no conflict, so that we're not like having our cake and eat it too, I guess, from the city's perspective.
Okay, and I think, and we appreciate those comments. Yes, Mr. Eads? and-
Yeah, so she took every word I was gonna say, so thank you, Councilmember Perez. But essentially, it's that, right? So that's where you're trying to make it an independent body, but you then have city tie, because we're supposed to recruit for them, do all HR.
No, I think the MPO,
Excuse me.
the MOU, I'm sorry.
Um,
With that question, hold your thought, Mr. Eads, and maybe let's respond to Ms. Benson.
For the MPOs, they always have a fiscal agent. They stand alone, but yet they have someone that, in other words, when they do the billings, they cover their billings and then they get reimbursed. So they'll get reimbursed for all their expenses of the PL program. However, you do have to have a fiscal agent.
Oh, Mayor, so let me ask this, I just want to reiterate this, because I'm trying to understand. What I'm gathering here is that this whole talk of a truly independent MPO is not seen in the city, in any city in Texas, correct? There's always a fiscal agent associated with that entity. Is that correct?
And I think that's correct, but I think the point that Mr. Salazar is bringing, to be honest with you, I think we need to just go to item, maybe have, all agree that the interim, no, hold on, doctor, hold on, please. Yeah, I think maybe,
I'm sorry, boss, I just want to get that question answered.
Hold on.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I guess I want to clarify something, and I think this is where we're kind of going around in circles right now, but I understand it's a little bit confusing. The agreement that's in place spelled out the responsibilities of the MPO director and the fiscal agent. The bylaws is the only place where it stated that the city planning director was also going to be the MPO director. So I think we need to clarify that. So the motion that was made at the last policy committee meeting was to separate those two individuals and the responsibility. So I think we're throwing out the word independent entity. I think it was so that position itself could be independent. There still has to be a financial agent, and it's not ever going to be fully independent because somebody has to oversee the program. I think the intent was always just to separate that position.
Okay, and apparently, if we're okay with it, do we need a motion as to that, or we've done it, I think, last time, right?
Against the bylaws, did y'all vote?
We did, yes, and we corrected. My concern is, we need an interim director. You know, we can't go without no one at the helm here. So we need to appoint that, you know, Mr. Juan Mendivia, if he's that candidate, needs to know that he's gonna, you know, be there for the next meeting. So how do we get there? Do we need a motion?
I think he's already there, though.
Yeah, well, that action was taken at the previous policy
Yeah,
committee.
but again, we go back to the same thing. The policy committee doesn't have that authority according to this contract. It's city
Okay,
manager.
so how do we do that then?
Then, if you were to ask me as city manager, so we can follow this, you ask me who I would want to appoint at this point, I'd say Juan Mendiva.
Okay, so.
But the record has to show city
Okay.
manager did that, at least at this point.
So your statement is that you have appointed, you've appointed, that you want to
On an
appoint
interim
He
basis.
needs to appoint him.
as interim, yeah, the MPO director. Now, we need to affirm that. Is there a motion that we affirm?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rubén Gutierrez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries. Okay, you're the interim.
Congratulations, interim, for the second time.
Officially,
For the second time.
Okay, so all the other matters, hold on, Doctor, all the other matters, I think we should take them under F and allow that, you know, TTDI, the Texas A&M Transportation Institute to help us sort out all of this and see what steps come first. Is there a motion? Yeah, there's a motion by the judge. Is there a second, Doctor?
I'll second that, yes, sir.
Okay, seconded. Discussion, go ahead.
That's F, is that correct,
Yeah.
sir?
When we need to bring it up, I'm sorry.
Yes, you need to bring that
Wanna
up.
bring it up?
That's what I meant, motion to bring up item F
Okay, Evan seconded
by Councilman.
by the council member. Is discussion, not heard, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, not heard, motion carries. Is there
I will move the motion for item F, to discuss and possible action to initiate a request for MPO process review by the TTI. That would be my motion. then.
There's a motion and seconded by Councilmember Rubén Gutierrez. Discussion, go ahead.
I just would like to, addition to that, I'd like to see if the judge would consider amending his motion to add to go on search for a permanent director. So yes, we want to look at the policies, but we also want to go find a permanent. Since we're separating it out, it would be nice to go find somebody that has a lot of experience in the MPOs. And so that would be, you know.
It's a suggestion, yeah.
Does that?
Would y'all consider that?
But just making sure that question, I don't mind amending it, but I want to make sure discussion and possible action to allow staff this is just to initiate a request, so that's why it's important.
Yeah, let's hear from TTI.
Well, I don't believe that this question or this item, this agenda item is going to be able to allow me to do that.
Okay. No, I think you're right.
Or wherever legal is, or whoever legal is, or.
Yeah, maybe at the next meeting, we can take it up, Doctor, or we can put an
Yeah,
agenda
Doc,
item.
I would love to do that, Doc, but I don't believe that this particular item, and it doesn't have any other matters in there too. It doesn't have any of that, so it's just basically, it's going straight just for the TTI. So if I move that motion or amend my motion, I think we're gonna be in a conflict.
Okay, we have a second already. Discussion, more discussion? None heard, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? None heard, none seen, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, So I think we're out of this for the time being.
So just for clarifying, did you bring up item F or was that?
No, item F was considered and there was a follow-up
Don't
motion.
worry, Mr. Mendiva, next time you're gonna be the third, you're gonna be confirmed for the third time interim.
Okay, moving on with the agenda, it's item C. The affirmative support of adjusted statewide pavement and bridge condition, PM2 targets. Who's got that? TxDOT or?
No, I have that.
Okay, yes, sir, go ahead.
So the screen should be, it's being shared, I think you all can see it in front of your screens. So there's a set of performance measures that are required, and targets that are set. These are set by the state. MPOs can establish their own or set the ones that the state set. There's some specific ones that are called the PM2 targets, and these are the pavement and bridge condition targets. In 2019, these were approved by the MPO Policy Committee. You all adopted the state targets. They did a mid-performance review, and they updated those targets just slightly. You see on your screen, for pavement on interstate highways, percent in good condition was changed from 66.4% to 66.5%. Percent in poor condition, 0.3% to 0.2%. And for pavement on non-interstate highways, but on the national highway system, the percent in good condition for the
Could you blow it up a little more for the people viewing?
we need a, can you zoom in on the? Yeah, they're gonna zoom in right now. So just to continue, the pavement on non-interstate highway, the NHS, percent in good condition, that's being modified from 52.3% to 54.1%. Percent in poor condition is being modified from 14.3% to 14.2%. And then for the bridge deck condition, that's being modified from 0.8% to 1.5%. And for the percent in good condition, 50.4%, that's actually remaining the same at 50.4%. We are required as an MPO to either create our own targets after this or reaffirm support for these statewide targets that were modified. There's another set of targets, PM3, that I'll be bringing to you in July after further research and conversations with Sara from TPP. We found that the PM3 targets were also modified, so we'll have to bring those in July. But for now, we're bringing these PM2 pavement and bridge condition targets to you for consideration to reaffirm support for the statewide targets.
So this is statewide pavement and bridge condition. So just strictly for bridges.
So this is any pavement on the interstate highway system.
Okay.
Or on the non-interstate highway system, that's part of the national highway system.
Okay,
And
so
then there's a bridge performance measure as well. But these are.
Did you need any action from this committee?
Yes, just to either reaffirm your support for it or we have a resolution.
So it's a
Before
motion
you.
to approve the resolution, inform support leader.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion seconded by Councilmember Ruben Gutierrez. Discussion? None heard, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item, receive public testimony and initiate a 20-day public review and comment period for the draft fiscal year
So moved, sir.
2022 UPWP. Yeah, we're opening a public hearing, a public review, and seconded by Dr. Martinez.
I have a question there.
Yeah, discussion, go ahead.
So the modifications, say that the MPO director would still be, hired by the city of Laredo, manager. So, for approving them as is, I think we're gonna be approving them with that condition. I think we just had a big discussion saying we didn't want that.
Where's that? Is that pertaining to the item here, public testimony?
The modification, well, yeah, because the modifications to, from what I understand, unless I'm wrong, but the ones that are included in the packet, if you read down, the bylaws, still say that.
No, hold on.
they're-
Yeah, are you talking about item D? Public testimony initiated 20-day, public review and comment period?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the other thing,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
never mind. I rescind.
Okay, that's fine. So those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? None heard, motion carries. So the public review period is open for 20 days, and I guess you'll bring it back?
We'll bring back this in July, and this is just the programming of our funds. We're programming 1.3 million in funds, and that would cover salaries and the studies that we do. That's included in your packet if you would like to review it.
And being that it's a public hearing or a public review, anyone here present wishing to speak for or against? For or against? For or against? None seeing, none coming forward, so I presume we can move on. Okay, so item E now. Yeah, discussion with possible action to direct the interim MPO director to issue a request for qualifications for an independent accounting firm to conduct an audit of the MPO, including but not limited to, various things there. Right?
If you don't mind, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I brought this item up, and the only reason why I brought this up is because this is something that I do in the county as well. Every time we have a director that, for whatever reason, has left, especially people, or not just the director, but also elected officials. We have plenty of them, most of them at the county. And so every time anything has to do with any kind of monies, all we do is we try to do an independent audit to make sure that not only our auditor is looking at it, which he does every year and all year, but also we come with somebody from the outside looking in. And it's just somebody for the next person to come in feeling comfortable and not getting into a situation. That's the whole reason why I brought this up.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Yes, Ms. Perez, I know you had something similar, or some comment on this item?
No, Mayor, out of this one.
Oh, okay then.
So on this particular item, if I may.
Go ahead.
Yes, on this particular item, I know our vice chairperson, Judge Tano Tijerina, did request this item. We also discussed it with the technical committee, and there were conversations that we had on there about who can do those audits, since the city is the fiscal agent, so you'd be auditing the city, and then since those funds are coming from TxDOT, being channeled through TxDOT, and it would also be like you're auditing TxDOT. But there's also audits that TxDOT does. So they were asking, the committee actually asked that this item be tabled until they look into the process and seeing if maybe TxDOT could perform an audit first before this committee goes out for RFQs for an independent auditor. So that was the recommendation from that technical committee. I know TxDOT also had some comments in regard to that.
Mr. Valdivia, you said it more eloquent than I could possibly say it, but bottom line, Judge, I understand your concern. Since it is state dollars coming forth and, we kind of oversee those monies, this can be handled from TxDOT internally to TPP. We can run that audit to make sure that it's happening well within whoever decides to be the financial agent or fiscal agent of this thing. It's something that we can handle through our own department without having to request for qualifications or get an independent person in here to do that.
And if that's the case, so be it. Then my motion would be to allow TxDOT to go in to do the audit. That would be my motion then.
Second. Thank you, sir.
Okay, there's a motion and seconded by Ruben Gutierrez, Councilman. A discussion? None heard, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Now moving on to G, a discussion with possible action on providing a letter of support to the city of Laredo and El Metro Transit for the U.S. DOT, Department of Transportation, Rebuilding America Infrastructure with sustainability and equity grant application for the new North Transit Hub. And that's, anyone? Yes, sir, go ahead.
So El Metro, thank you. El Metro approached us asking for a letter of support for a grant they're submitting for the race grant to the U.S. Department of Transportation for that new North Transit Hub. We've been having conversations with El Metro about that. We don't have the specifics of the letter yet, but they need that by, I believe, before July 12th. So that's before the next policy committee meeting. So all we're asking here is that, we just get the green light from the committee to be able to provide that letter of support to them.
Yes, sir. Okay, so motion? Yes, to support, in letter of support. I'm sorry?
Motion to give a letter of support.
Okay, and seconded by Judge Tijerina. A discussion? Not heard, not seen. All those, yes, ma'am, are you in favor? Or you have a
I'm in
comment?
favor.
Okay.
I'm in favor.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item is H, a discussion of possible action on changing the regularly scheduled meeting dates of the MPO Policy Committee currently held on the third Monday of each month. I think it was brought up by Ms. Perez. or at least I heard. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yes, Mayor, I brought this item just because, it's a little difficult to have MPO on the same day of council, meetings, and so I was hoping
Tell
that
me about it.
the policy committee would agree that maybe we could, move the date of the MPO meeting so that it wouldn't land on the same days as council, as often as they do.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
the only thing is that I would venture to say that the city does it on the first and the first and third Mondays. We do it on the second and fourth.
Does it have to be a Monday?
No, the bylaws don't specify anything, it's just any day of the week, it doesn't specify.
I'm just throwing that out there. So if it's currently held on the third Monday of each month, right? That's what she wants, that's what I think, that's what it says?
Correct.
So y'all will still have that, no? Because y'all are on the third Monday.
Well, would we be able to move it to like Wednesdays or Tuesdays, maybe, so that way it doesn't conflict with county?
That's how it stands, because we're on the first and third, so we're trying to move it from the third.
Oh, you're trying to move it from the third?
Exactly.
Yeah, then I would recommend that, we move it to a Wednesday.
If you,
Wednesday of the same week when we meet? With council, yeah.
staff would recommend that you
Yeah,
leave
you
it the
need
same week.
one day to recover.
No comments, Mayor.
Brutal. Yeah. We gotta gather our wits again.
We're in the trenches on Mondays. Wednesday, can we, maybe do noon meetings on, every third Wednesday or something? Would that work?
I believe there's, at one point in the past, MPOs did meet at noon, but I believe
But
those
Judge
lunch expenses weren't.
Tiggerino was getting hangry, so he asked if we could move it to 1:30.
Yeah, I believe lunches
Yeah.
through the MPO program, we're not able to cover for lunch, so that, you just need to take that into consideration.
1:30 is perfect.
You don't want hungry and impatient.
Yeah, we were getting hangry at that point in time.
Okay, would Wednesday then at 1:30? Yeah.
Can we do it at 11 or is that not?
We're really gonna get hangry.
Is everyone maybe poll people and see when they can do it?
I guess we
know
can.
work on the Commissioner Gale's not here, Commissioner Gonzalez isn't here, there's people that are missing. Maybe okay, we poll them, we'll just see. We'll work with people and then we can set it up, please.
Yes, that's a good idea, I think.
Yeah, we can send out a poll.
Holy, yeah, okay. Yeah, hopefully, and by next meeting, we'll decide, I guess, if the
So,
polls.
do I make a motion, for this item?
Let's go ahead and make the motion and see where it goes. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Motion to poll the committee to see which other days would work best to have a regularly scheduled MPO meetings.
I'll second that.
So now Fridays, just so everybody knows who's when.
What, Saturday, you said? No.
I serve on Saturdays, I do serve
On Saturdays, Mayor, thank you.
No Saturdays.
No, sir.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second by our judge here, Tano Tijerina. Discussion, any further? None heard? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The other item is the Ruthinger. A discussion with possible action on the Chad Ruthinger Road project, see what progress we've made.
Mayor, that's gonna be handled through our own, Tito Gonzalez here. He's gonna provide a brief summary after Memo comes up and speaks on it.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Guillermo Cuellar with Webb County Engineering. Just as a brief update, we have received a lot of the files requested from our contractor, our consultant. We delivered them to TxDOT, they're reviewing them. We're also reviewing those files. We requested some additional files from our consultant and hopefully to have them by the end of this week to deliver to TxDOT.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions or comments for the gentleman? And if not, Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, Mayor, that was the update. We were looking for an update on the remaining files that were to be sent over. We did a thorough review of all the files that we did receive, I think last month. So as soon as we get those remaining files, that should complete that task from the county. We do have our engineering consultant on board already that is working on the plans for the project, has started. And we also do have our consultant on board that's started the remaining environmental work to get that cleared as well. So that's underway already.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions for anyone on this item? If none, I guess there's no action required, just a report. The next item is item B, as a status report by the RMA. That's the Regional Mobility Authority. Mr. Brown?
I don't know, but I'm pretty excited with your new computers here. I like this. I do.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor, PNC, excuse me, MPO members. Jed Brown with the RMA. I'll go off script. The first item would be the Killam Industrial Boulevard Turn Lanes Project. Mr. Salazar, Mr. Gonzalez couldn't correct me, but I believe construction's slated to start next week. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Awesome, we're excited about that. That's something that the city, the RMA, and TxDOT are all working on together. It's good that that's under construction. The phase at Killam Industrial was supposed to be started and completed in the front end of the project. I'm told it had to get moved because there's problems statewide with ordering traffic signals. So we're all at the mercy of the provider there, but that project will move along. We're really excited starting next week. Los Presidentes, I actually intend to make a trip out there as soon as we're done here today. I want to see with my eyes how we're moving along there, but I'm told it's moving along smoothly. The connection that we're working on with TxDOT, those plans are at 95%. So that's not far off where that aspect of the project can start. We're looking at that to be done in 2022, but that project's moving along. Vallecillo Road, I did finally have an opportunity to meet with Bruce Bugg here a few weeks ago for about 30 minutes, along with Mark Williams, who's now the boss there with TxDOT. That was an encouraging meeting. We're still pursuing aspects of completing the funding gap everywhere we can. So we're looking to Austin, we're looking to Washington. We may get some good news within a matter of a month or two on that, where that project, the gap gets closed off and we're able to construct the project. I'll go off script on two others. Springfield Road, that's a project that we've committed to work with the city of Laredo on. I'm excited to report that while I was sitting here, I got a text from Ramon Chavez that the plans are at 95%, so they're almost complete. The city has asked us for some money on that, and we've committed the money. We have to complete an ILA with the city to provide those funds, so that's something that we'll work on together here sooner than later. And lastly, Life Downs. That's a project with the County of Webb that we have pledged to provide a traffic study. So as soon as the county officials and the county engineer ask us to commence with that project, we're ready to get started. So that would be an update from the RMA on projects we're working on. There's a few others in the pipeline with the MPO. There may be a South Laredo transportation planning study that could be looked into real soon. That's something that we were approached with a few months ago, and just like we did in North Laredo, we see the tremendous growth in South Laredo, and we'd like to be a participant there. And then at some point, if we have some overpasses in South Laredo to work on, we'd love to get involved with the city, the county, or whomever is constructing them. So we're here to serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And do we have any comments or questions for the gentleman?
Make them simple.
No, I think we're fine. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you all very much. Have a good
Thank you.
afternoon.
Moving on to the director's comments. Mr. Mandivi?
Yes, just a few comments. I mean, first of all, thank you all for your support. Also, I think staff has been very supportive, so we have a real good staff. I think that makes this job a lot easier and to carry out the duties of the MPO interim director. Also want to thank, city management. They've been very cooperative, and everyone at the planning department, staff, so Ms. Sierra, and I know even the RMA has helped out a lot. Just questions we have, TxDOT, very supportive. People from the county. So thank you for that. We're just trying to do what's best for the region here, for Laredo and Webb County, to move forward, these very important transportation projects and these planning activities. With that being said, the Active Transportation Committee has been meeting every month. I know this committee approved that Active Transportation Committee back in January, or actually the first meeting was held in February. So we're going into our 5th meeting already. And so in the future, you should maybe see some policy items that will be coming to you about how to, improve active transportation here in Laredo and Webb County. And also as the director of interim director, we've been invited to participate in these resiliency work groups with FHWA, TTI, different MPOs in the state, because they want us to consider resiliency in our planning, efforts, our ongoing planning efforts, and our decisions that we make. We want to make sure that we have a resilient transportation system to make sure in case there's whether it be a natural disaster or a man-made, issue, that we are able to carry out have the transportation system function effectively, right, and not have any negative impacts, and be able to recover. So we'll continue participating in those workshops. in that UPWP that you all right now open the public comment period for. We are considering a resiliency study. That's something that FHWA suggested. So we'll be bringing that to you at a future date as well. So, and that's all
Wonderful, thank you.
for my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or questions for the gentleman? And if not, thank you very much, and congratulations again for being interim director.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
You do a fantastic job, sir, and it's really a pleasure to work with you on the other committee as well, the transportation committee, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Absolutely. Motion.
Motion is seconded by Dr. Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, have a good one.
Bye, thank you. Thank you. This meeting's